What up, witches? I am reading Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mickey Kendall. Solidarity is still for white women. As debates over last names, body hair, and the best way to be a CEO have taken center stage in the discourse surrounding modern feminism, it's not difficult to see why some would be questioning the legitimacy of a women's movement that only serves the narrow interests of middle and upper-class white women. While the problems facing marginalized women have only increased in intensity, somehow food insecurity, education, and healthcare, beyond the most basic of reproductive needs, are rarely touted as feminine issues. It is past time to make the conversation a nuanced, inclusive, and intersectional one that reflects the concerns of all women, not just a privileged few. In 2013, when I started hashtag Solidarity is for White Women, by which I meant mainstream feminist calls for solidarity centered on not only the concerns but the comfort of white middle-class women at the expense of other women, many white feminists claimed it was divisive and called it infighting, instead of recognizing that the problem was real and could not solve itself. They argued that the way to fix feminism wasn't by airing its proverbial dirty laundry in public. Yet since its inception, mainstream feminism has been insisting that some women have to wait longer for equality, that once one group, usually white women, achieves equality, then that opens the way for all other women. But when it comes right down to it, mainstream white feminism often fails to show up for women of color. While white feminism can lean in, can prioritize the CEO level at work, it fails to show up when Black women are not being hired because of their names or fired for hairstyles. It's silent when schools discriminate against girls of color. Whether it is the centering of white women even when women of color are most likely to be at risk, or the complete erasure of issues most likely to impact those who are not white, white feminism tends to forget that a movement that claims to be for all women has to engage with the obstacles women who are not white face. Trans women are often derided or erased, while prominent feminist voices parrot the words of conservative bigots, framing womanhood as biological and determined at birth, instead of as a fluid and often arbitrary social construct. Trans women of color, who are among the most likely targets of violence, see statistics that reflect their reality co-opted to bolster the idea that all women are facing the same level of danger. Yet support from mainstream white feminists for the issues that directly impact trans women has been at best minimal and often non-existent. From things as basic to access to public bathrooms to job protection, there's a dearth of mainstream white feminist voices speaking out against trans exclusionary policies and laws. A one-size-fits-all approach to feminism is damaging because it alienates the very people it is supposed to serve without ever managing to support them. For women of color, the expectation that we prioritize gender over race, that we treat the patriarchy as something that gives all men the same power, leaves many of us feeling isolated. When the obstacles you face vary by race and class, then so too do your priorities. After all, for women who are struggling to keep themselves housed, fed, and clothed, it's not a question of working hard enough. They are leaning in, but not in search of equal pay or having it all. Their quest for equal pay starts with equal access to education and opportunity. They need feminism to recognize that everything that affects women is a feminist issue, whether it be food insecurity or access to transit, schools, or a living wage. Does that mean that every feminist has to be at every event, know every detail of every struggle? No. It does, however, mean that the language surrounding whatever issues feminists choose to focus on should reflect an understanding of how the issue's impact varies for women in different socioeconomic positions. The conversation around work, for instance, should recognize that for many people, needing to work to survive is a fact of life. We can't let respectability policies, that is, an attempt by marginalized groups to internally police members so that they fall in line with the dominant culture's norms, create an idea that only some women are worthy of respect or protection. Respectability narratives discourage us from addressing the needs of sex workers, incarcerated women, or anyone else who has had to face hard life choices. No woman has to be respectable to be valuable. We can't demand that people work in order to live and then demand that they be respected only if they do work that doesn't challenge outdated ideas around women's rights to control their bodies. Too often, mainstream feminism embraces an idea that women must follow a work path prescribed by cisgender white men in order for their labor to matter. But everyone, from a person who needs care to a stay-at-home parent to a sex worker, matters and deserves to be respected, whether they are in the home or in an office. This tendency to assume that all women are experiencing the same struggles has led us to a place where reproductive health imagery centers on cisgender able-bodied women to the exclusion of those who are trans, intersex, or otherwise inhabiting bodies that don't fit the narrow idea that genitalia dictates gender. After all, you can have no uterus and still be a woman. Hysterectomy. She's referring to a hysterectomy. Employment equality statistics project the idea that all women make 77 cents to a man's dollar, when the reality is that white women make that much, and women of color make less than white women. Affirmative action complaints, including those filed by white women, hinge on the idea that people of color are getting the most benefit, when the reality is that white women benefit the most from affirmative action policies. The sad reality is that while white women are an oppressed group, they still wield more power than any other group of women, including the power to oppress both men and women of color. The myth of the strong black woman has made it so that white women can tell themselves that it is okay to expect us to wait to be equal with them, because they need it more. The fact that black women are supposedly tougher than white women means that we are built to face abuse and ignorance, and that our need for care or concern is less pressing. In general, while white women are taught to think of whiteness as default, of race as something to ignore, their failure to appreciate the way that race and other marginalization can impact someone is often borne out in popular media. Consider the harmful misstep of Lena Dunham's HBO show Girls, which featured an all-white cast of 20-something women and men living in Brooklyn, New York, being heralded as a show for all young women despite its complete exclusion of women of color. Or more recently, Dunham and Amy Schumer's cringe-inducing conversation about whether Odell Beckham Jr. was in the wrong for not expressing any interest, sexual or otherwise, in Dunham while they were seated at the same table at the Met Gala. Somehow the fact that Beckham was absorbed in his phone meant that he was passing judgment on Dunham's attractiveness, and not that his mind was simply elsewhere. Despite the fact that he never said a negative word, he was dragged into their personal narrative in part because of this unspoken assumption that he owed a white woman who wanted it his attention. Now, I don't expect Dunham or Schumer or feminists like them to listen to black women or other women of color. It's not an innate skill for white people, and for white feminists who are used to shutting out the voices of men, it can be especially difficult to hear that they have the power to oppress a man. But that doesn't change the history of black men being demonized or killed for expressing an interest in white women. Nor does it change the negative impact that a white woman's tears can still have not only a black man's career, but on his life. The fact that Dunham apologized and that she didn't mean to do harm is pretty much meaningless. The harm was done, and her casual racist assumptions still meant Beckham spent days in the news cycle for imaginary body shaming. When white feminism ignores history, ignores that the tears of white women have the power to get black people killed, while insisting that all women are on the same side, it doesn't solve anything. Look at Carolyn Bryant, who lied about Emmett Till whistling at her in 1955.